Hello. Uh, I've added a little video thing, so hi. Um, yeah, I thought I'd sort of take you on a little guided tour through how everything's looking at the moment. So I've got a little asset here. I'll come back to that in a sec. But yeah, so the map terrain is a lot better now. So I can show you the model as well, which is pretty cool. So it's all based on procedural assets. So, for example, there's this huge wall wrapping around the city that has like multiple tiers, has little like turrets and crenellations, and that whole thing is based on just a few curves. So, for example, that one is based off this curve, which I can move bits about in, and it moves the wall. And essentially all it does is just instances a template along the curve and then bends it. And so I keep all my templates in here. So we can go to, if I turn procedural off and head into big wall template, you can see that actually the wall is just that repeated over and over and over. And then that is textured to map all of its faces to a bunch of areas of a texture. So down here is the I think it's a 512 by 512 atlas, and an atlas. If you don't know, I learnt this relatively recently. It's like how in PS2 era games and software you would have a big texture map that has like multiple textures in tiling squares, and then you would just move different areas of a model to different squares in the atlas, and then they'd represent different textures. So, for example, D2 there is going to be like a path kind of texture, and D1 is going to be my standard brick wall. And so I've called that base plate because they all reference the same texture. And so yeah, after you texture the texture then just maps out to all of the things that rely on the template. So I've got some little 8 meter tall walls here for some of the area. I still need to add floor to these. You can see there's some untextured bits, so I've not done the nose wall yet or the prison wall. I still need to do the port wall as well. You can see that the grid-like texturing works really nicely even for curved terrain. So I've got like the park here. Go into side view mode. You can see park's got pretty decent elevation. It almost matches the outside city walls, but the tiling isn't disrupted. And one of the nice things about modeling this way, as opposed to what I was doing previously, which was like a big model that just had everything all connected, in if you make lots of little bits, one, you don't have to worry about like quad flow. So like typically you do have to worry about this kind of thing. So you want to make sure that your quads always have bidirectional flow, because that it just means that the model doesn't ever like you can model without that, but if you do model without that, you'll end up with like constriction points often. So you'll end up with like bits where textures like cinch together like that, which you want to avoid, obviously. And so if you model with bidirectional flow, in which is easier done if you do it in lots of little pieces, uh, it makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to texturing. And so you can probably see that there's these bits glitching in and out here. That's just because of the camera clip distance. If I get closer, you can see that there's no glitching. Um, but the really nice thing about modeling this way as well is you don't have to be too exact. So you can just hide the edges of terrain underneath other bits of model. So for example, these pavement sections alongside the river are ever so slightly raised so that I can hide the end of the terrain underneath them. Um, so I still need to properly texture the bridges and some of the walls and some of that stuff, and then also add things like paths and plazas and things to all the different like map chunks. Yeah, I had to break some of these edge pieces up into like separate sort of slivers. But then if you match their Z position exactly, there's no seam, which is nice. Yeah, so that's how the model looks. So I'll take you back to the game. I've added the day-night cycle back again, and you can see I'm still my little like pillbug guy. So it can hop around, you can see that the texture on the floor, you can see the pixels a bit clearer. That's because the grid that the floor uses is a 5 meter grid. So always across all of the floor pieces, it's always 5 meters to one 64 pixel square, whereas on models, it's closer to 1 meter. So these blocks are exactly 1 meter, but then these guys are slightly larger just to account for their skew. Um, and then some of the assets that I've been building that are non-static, so scripted assets. One that I'm very proud of is the lamppost I showed at the beginning. And so you'll see that it is a lamppost and it has like 4 signs. Now, this was super difficult to set up, and annoyingly, it is just morning now in game, so you won't get to see this lamppost unless I spend ages on this. But I'll quickly zoop things apart. We'll get up the Godot controller. And so this lamppost, the great thing about Godot is you can render in real time. So yeah, you can see here the default state for a lamppost is on. And so if I head into the, where have I put it? Scenes, assets, furnishings, street lamp. You'll see that a street lamp consists of a bunch of displays, which are essentially kind of like a screen. So you can place screens around the world and then have those screens render things. And then some meshes and things like that. But the cool thing about it, and if you check the game window, if I type some stuff in here, you'll see that if I get rid of stuff, there's no sign. And if I type, all of the words appear, which is super cool. And secret fact, the font that these signs use is the real UK road maps font, which I really like. So yeah, that's the lot. In fact, this street lamp might turn on in a sec, so I'll hang around until it does. Um, yeah, so I plan on putting these sort of at the corner of all the major roads. That should get it working.